Welcome back. Confirmation yesterday from the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, that government will spend another 7.4 billion rand on the presidential employment stimulus. The program helps to create job opportunities for young people. At the moment, Statistics South Africa said this week, just under 60% of our young people don't have jobs. As you know, our fiscal situation also very, very strained. Tertia is a Treasury economist at Investec. Ravi Naidoo is the CEO of the Youth Employment Service. Good afternoon to you both, and thanks for the time. Ravi, if I may start with you. So you get this money, 7.4 billion rand. What do you do with it? How do you use this money to help young people?
Right. So thanks very much, Stephen. Let me just start with that important clarification. So yes, does not get even 1 rand from the fiscus, I'm pleased to say. It's an entirely private sector funded program. So all 100% of our money does not come from the Minister of Finance. It comes from sponsoring corporates. But as a private sector youth employment program, and the biggest internship program in the country by some scale when it comes to 12-month programs, we obviously collaborate with all those organizations that do get money from the fiscus. So we obviously support the fact that many of them get money and many of them are doing a good job. But we ourselves are 100% funded by the private sector as a contribution from the private sector to youth employment.
Right, thank you for the clarification. I would presume that what we start to see, Ravi, is that more and more young people get these opportunities. Do you know what impact that actually has on their lives going forward?
Yeah, so I think, what's behind your question, and I think it's a very good question, is that as a Minister of Finance, you have to look at, if you put money into a particular program, taxpayer money, what is the return you're getting on that investment? And you'd find, different programs in the public sector have very different impacts. So we would say that from what we see, the more you can give young people practical experience within a private company doing an actual job, that's good. Because companies, for example, would treat someone with 2 years work experience in this exact same way that they would treat a new graduate. So 2 years of work experience is almost in the market regarded as the same value to a company as a 3-year university degree. So we focus at the YES program, and we've got about 1,600 sponsoring companies, and we've done about 134,000 internships done to date and about 3,000 new ones every month. We focus on getting people into working with companies, and then also, they're all coming from very disadvantaged backgrounds, but, we pick the high potential ones as much as we can and put them into, sectors that are important for the country. Renewables, solar, ICT, become a drone pilot, work in the tourism sector, in a particular valuable, component of it. So these things fuel growth. And we find where it's very private sector focused in terms of you're meeting a particular demand in the economy, that's good. Where programs are very supply orientated, they're just training people, you don't know where they're going and all of that, we think those probably the Minister of Finance might want to think about how he reviews those. But as I say, we don't have a horse in the race on the government money, but we find the best impact for people who stay in employment and develop their careers and become entrepreneurs. It's the exposure to private sector work experience.
Tertia, when we have more young people working and then obviously entering the job market in this way, it must boost the economy in really important ways. But I wonder, does it take any sort of time before you see that impact?
Stephen, that's a very good question, but I think the point that Ravi made, right, is that you do need the practical experience, and that is why youngsters must get the opportunity. And I think that is the biggest challenge in South Africa with the employment situation, with the budget issue, and the stagnating economy.
So in other words, we need to make sure that there are more programs like this and that we know that work experience adds real value to the person and to the corporate.
No, absolutely. And youngsters, they're very open for new skills, but they need the chance. And I think that's the biggest challenge in South Africa. And it comes back to the quality of education as well, where there's huge divergences between the quality of education between the public and between some of the public schools as well as the private schools.
Ravi, do you know what happens to the young people after they get this opportunity? I mean, are you able to track them and see where they go? I know it's sort of early days and these things take time, but do you know where they go after that?
Yes, I think that really is a important requirement one must have of all programs that are being supported is just to track the impact that it is having. So given that our funders are private companies and they watch their rands and cents very carefully, we have to report back to each one in terms of what's happened to the youth, what experience did they get. And also, where are they now? So at the end of the 12-month program, where are they? So we find in our case where the company is giving people exposure to, within their group. So let's just say we have, we actually run the baristas program. We're one of the big food companies and hospitality companies, and they actually retain 90% of the people as baristas or sushi chefs. We work with some of the biggest retailers, and they find, when you have trained someone in the practical experience of working in your company, you don't want to do that again because you've already invested that time and money with that person for 12 months. So we find, with the big retailers, they absorb about 65% of the people that have been through the program. So those are very high absorption numbers, again, because of the practical exposure and the fact that companies are comfortable, with these people. And I think that really is I suppose the key finding. Then obviously, if you are supporting people who have potential, no one stays in the same job forever. Yeah. So we find that a lot of people we are finding are very entrepreneurial, and they want to be entrepreneurs. They even register so about 15% of our youth program register their own small businesses while they have a job, because they know at the end of this program, either I want to work as a supplier for this company, or I want to be running my own business using the experience I've gained, doing something else. And that's very important, because you want a lot of these guys to go on to start small businesses that become big businesses, because the answer to youth employment is not ministers and talking heads. It's going to be young people themselves who will be creating the companies that go on to become, the next Nando's and all of those things. So we want to get thousands and thousands of those young, talented people out there in the market. So there is a formula, and we collect a lot of data, so we can analyze successful programs from less successful programs and what makes one young person more effective, more successful than another. And then we try to apply it in how we constantly evolve our corporate partnerships so that we just replicate what works as much as possible.
Tertia, we all know how bad our crisis is, and particularly for young people. And we look at the budget yesterday. Is there anything in the budget, any other programs that are likely to stimulate the economy and to grow jobs? And I know for the minister it's a very difficult situation at the moment.
Stephen, so there is the 7.4 billion presidential employment program that you're referring to, as well as the expanded public program. But perhaps the point that I can bring in here is, that the big announcement yesterday is that government will be using the JFACRA. And the reason for that is, South Africa's debt burden has been growing so rapidly because of the stagnating growth, the revenue collections that are relatively challenged, as well as, relatively sticky expenditure. And the rising interest rate burden has been crowding out, spending on these types of programs. So if we can, get the economy to grow, it's like a self-fulfilling or a virtuous circle, because if the economy grows, we'll be able to generate more revenue for the fiscus, which will support expenditure and give more youngsters the opportunity for programs like these. So that is what we've got to achieve. So the first thing is the infrastructure story, which will allow the economy to grow, some changes in labor regulations, and then more doors will open for these youngsters.
And then obviously, Tertia, we've got to fix Transnet and Eskom. I mean, lots of people now are suggesting that Transnet is the next Eskom or is already Eskom. And Tertia, if we don't fix those things, then it's going to be just harder to do anything new.
No, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the potential GDP growth rate of the economy, it's like 1%. So, with load shedding, the economy looks like it can cope now with stages 1 and 2. But, we're going to have these flare-ups of stages 4 to 6 because, the coal power fleet is just too old. So we're going to struggle to get this energy availability factor above 60% or even 55% for that matter. So, and the same with Transnet, the port crisis that we had in December going into January. So it's imperative, that the right people are appointed so that this process can actually accelerate, because the quicker we sort out the infrastructure, the quicker there will be a return in confidence and people will start investing more. And that will, because the only way that you can actually create more jobs is to increase private sector fixed investment.
Confidence so important to that. Tertia Jacobs, thank you. Treasury economist, Investec, Ravi Naidoo, the CEO of the Youth Employment Service. Appreciate the time. Thank you.